All right, well, welcome back. We're back to Three Old Friends, The Music Never Ends, our podcast where we get together, make playlists, and then talk about the music that we love. We're going to try a little bit of a different format today. Instead of going in order and just talking about each song and each of us talking about each other's songs, we're going to kind of do a little bit of more of a free form. We're going to talk about the playlist and talk about the songs, but not necessarily in any specific order. We'll see if that works this time, and if it does, we may stay with that format. So this time, though, the topic was to me, and I decided wanted to look at trying to get some longer songs maybe onto the playlist. But if we did that, we might eat up a lot of time, a lot of time because there's a lot of long songs that are out there. So what we decided on was something called the long and short of it. So we'll have a couple of long songs, a 7 minute and maybe a 10 minute long song, and then maybe fill in with some of the shorter songs, 1 or 2 minute long songs, which might have been a challenge as well. So this playlist we're looking at just a couple of one 1 minute song, 1 2 minute song, a 7 minute song, and a 10 minute song, and we had the flexibility to go plus or minus in that in any way we saw. But so I started out the playlist with a song called "Old Friends," and I know we're not going to go in order necessarily, but I wanted to start out with that one first because of my old friends. Because of Mike and Jose, I've known them for a long time, and we are getting old as well. So wanted to start out with that one, a great classic Simon and Garfunkel song. Um, but anyway, I started with that song. What did you guys think of starting it off with something like that? Was it a little too sappy for you, or?
No, you're a pretty sappy individual. No, I enjoyed it. I mean, you're never gonna not enjoy "Old Friends" as a song. I got the meaning, and I understood where it's coming from, and who doesn't love that song, and all that it entails. But what I really liked about this playlist, and I'm gonna brag myself, not because I picked it or anything, it's largely because it came from you, Dave, is from "Old Friends" to "White Car," the transition there just seems to flow so effortlessly. It's like they were almost made for each other. They don't have anything to do with each other, with the same kind of tone. Now, what I find amusing is that it was followed up by "Sugar Baby" by Bob Dylan. And Mike, what were you thinking on, on that?
Well, I'll have to come back to those other two songs because I have things to say about those. But Sugar Baby, I had kind of lost, I wouldn't say faith in Dylan, but I lost interest in Dylan for a big period there. And he put this one album out, Love and Theft. And I heard this thing. I don't want to go on too long about this, but I was a police reporter, and I was sent to drive way out into the country somewhere. And there had been a high school varsity star athlete. He'd gone missing, and they found his car with him in it under this bridge in this small town in Texas. And so I had this long drive out there, and I'm trying to get something on the radio. This is before streaming, and so I had a lot of time to listen and think. And I pick up this song, kind of, it was not staticky, but fading in and out. I'm like, wow, what is that song? I have never heard that before. I recognized it as Dylan, obviously, but then I went and got the record, which, by the way, came out on September 11th, 2001, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyway, it was, I just love the album, and this song in particular. I don't know, it's dark, it's kind of, I like the arrangements. It was the whole album, but this song in particular just really kind of touched me. I thought the lyrics were really good. It's about somebody, this woman, probably, I doubt, literally somebody he knew, this fictional narrator, and pretty bleak outlook on stuff. I understand, but why I put it there is because I had a limited number of long songs, a limited number of lesser long songs, and some really short ones, and none of them really fit this spot. And so I was like, well, we've had 2 short ones. I'm going to put on a long one. And I wanted to get that out there. I like the song. I was wanting to turn you guys on to it.
You know, one thing I think I found with all of our musical tastes over the years is I think Dylan is one that we all three kind of gravitate to. There's not like that style and what he does. I don't think if any of us ever put on a Dylan song, none of us ever have any issue with it, other than the fact that maybe wasn't familiar with that song, or I didn't remember that he did something like that. So I'm gonna comment just a minute on, because I wrote a couple notes about this song, just because I love lyrics. I love the storytelling. You know that about me, and this one had a cadence to it, like a lot of his things, and he's just brilliant on how he does that. He might say a phrase or whatever, and I picked up on this song, and I don't know why, but where he doesn't even necessarily say it the way you would normally say it and end on a word that you would normally end on. He might cut the phrase off in the middle of the sentence. And so like one of them, he was like, you always got to be prepared, but you never know for what. And it's like, that's not how you normally would talk. You know, you would normally string that together in a different way. And so on this one, I picked up on that with it. And then the other thing is he said, I'm staying with my Aunt Sally, but you know, she's really not my aunt. And I said, what does that mean? And so I actually looked it up, and it was from Mark Twain from Huckleberry Finn, which I thought was he used that in one of his songs. So again, I thought that was a pretty cool thing with the Dylan thing. I'd never heard the song, but I liked it a lot.
Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say I highly recommend this record. I don't know. I think it got a little bit of airplay. I can't remember which song, but it really grew on me. A lot of the songs were kind of influenced by older style music. I mean, like way older style, and I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll attest to Dave, you and your storytelling, because I think my favorite song on this playlist was that "A Better Place to Be," because you know, first of all, is this guy just scoring with all the chicks that come in that he encounters?
That's
No,
Harry Chapin.
that's such a
He's
superficial
storyteller.
Right, but it is one of those songs that you follow, and then you as you continually listen to it, you're getting the jet, and you're like, okay, so he meets this one night stand. He does this one, the rotund waitress loves. You know, it's just a great song and a great storytelling. So I'm just gonna say that was kind of one of my favorites on this mixtape for sure.
Mike, what did you think of it? Was it something in your wheelhouse?
I have to admit a little bias. I've always found Harry Chapin to be kind of depressing, and all the songs I know, it's like "Cats in the Cradle" and the Taxi Driver song, whatever, the Taxi or whatever, and the DJ one. They're just kind of whoa. I'm not saying they're not good. Same with this one. You know, there's some kind of dark, kind of not dark, but just things happening in this one. And okay, let me go back to that in a second. But in this one, it kind of has a great ending. You know, things, we don't know what happened to the lady that just walked out, you know, on him.
Is it a better ending because, or is it just the complacency of just being in a better place, just being with somebody?
Right, not being lonely.
I don't know if that's actually a happy ending per se. Is it because you just want to be satisfied with somebody, or because they just want to be with somebody because it's better than just being alone?
Right, that's kind of what he said. He kind of said he smiled a crooked grin, and
right, and he's like, "Hey,
all right, yeah,
let's go.
Better than being alone tonight."
That's right, and that's the whole chorus throughout, which is the great chorus throughout the whole song. You know, and like you said, some of the lyrics, like "She was so damn beautiful, she could warm a winter frost." That is a great line. You know, when he's, you know, eyes the girl. We've all seen a woman like that you kind of feel like, man, that woman is so beautiful. You know, I like that line a lot. So,
well, you know, you mentioned Mike about him being a little bit dark. He died early too. I wonder what he would have done throughout his life. We talked about the ones who passed away, but he passed away way too early.
Oh, for sure.
I remember when that happened. He was on a highway, I think heading to a show. He was in some little kind of car and got hit by an 18-wheeler or something like that. I've got to, I have to disagree with you though, Jose. What's the love the one you're with? I mean, we don't always get exactly, he may never have, in just a different set of circumstances, he may have seen this beautiful, I guess to him, ideal woman, and never had a chance with her. She wouldn't give him the time of the day. But, one time in our lives, everybody gets lonely at some point. And,
Yeah.
sometimes, yes, it's the human condition that we, sometimes it is, like you said in the song, make better be somewhere than nowhere. But I don't know. I would argue that that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, not everybody's going to get their ideal person, but they may get with somebody who becomes their ideal person as they get to know them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she deserved a chance as much as anybody.
Right. I'm not saying necessarily that it's, I guess I was saying that it's that maybe just settling, but maybe like you said, maybe if that's exactly what they settle for and they become in love, then yes, more power to them. That one more sound like this woman was like, "Hey, dude, I just heard this story about you sleeping with somebody else, but okay, you want to sleep with me? Sure, because it'll be better." That doesn't sound like the classic love story that's gonna bloom into but maybe it will. Maybe these two were meant for each other. After hearing this story about his one night stand, he decides,
Well,
yes,
he said that he spent a day, in Watertown, New York, and heard this story and came up with this song. So I mean,
right.
yeah, that's it's pretty interesting. So now, if you didn't have a better place to be, you could always go to Willie the Pimp, and and
Okay, I admit that was probably the worst follow up on this.
no, but it actually, at first, when I first heard it, I thought the same thing. But Frank Zappa is Frank Zappa, and
Right.
it's a different kind of love.
Well, this was one of those albums. The hot comes off Hot for Rats, Willie the Pimp, and it's the only song where they have lyrics in it. There's 6 songs on the album, and 5 of them are instrumentals. And I think he probably just tacked on these lyrics because probably had them lying around, or he's like, these sound cool. Because let's face it, you make an instrumental album and you only make one song with lyrics. Now, I admit I love the song. I think it's great, and it shows off Frank Zappa, and it really shows off that percussion in the background if you really listen to it, but shows off Frank Zappa's, great guitar work. You couldn't deny it. But yeah, I will admit that for some reason, even when I'd cringe, I was like, oh shit, I just heard this whole song about lost love and being dead, and all of a sudden I'm hearing he wants to score with $20 bill. So okay, I apologize for that one.
Like I
Don't
said,
apologize. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's a different kind of love, and I like the tune, I like the song, I like the groove. It was good.
Yeah, maybe the guy with the $20 bill and the bow tie, that's about the best he could do, who knows? I like that it had, I like the song. It is kind of, it's not the most commercial, but then often most of Frank Zappa's music really isn't commercial, but that's not what we like about it.
Right.
And he does have these long, guitar things. His style of soloing is interesting. If you're not familiar with it, it often can sound discordant. But he was a smart guy and he knew what he was doing. But I think my favorite part of the song, that's not true. I do like the playing. I like the violin too. There's electric violin on there. I thought it was Jean-Luc Ponty because he did play with them, but it's
No,
another guy.
it's not him. It's some other guy who's pretty well known that I do not know right now.
But I like who made an appearance, and I would be surprised if he's ever made an appearance on any playlist that we've been involved with, and that's Captain Beefheart.
Wow.
He's kind of out there. He's no longer with us now, neither is Frank Zappa, but yeah, he's a trip. And he had a whole bunch of records. I never owned one. I heard one that Zappa produced. What was it called? I'll think of it in a second. But he, yeah, I had to look up the lyrics because a lot of the stuff he was singing or yelling or whatever he was doing, that just didn't. It was hard to understand. But yeah, it's fun. It's lots of fun.
Oh yeah, no, it's again, I love Frank Zappa and I think he's great, but yeah, for some reason, this was the one song on the tape that just kind of jolts you into some into a different realm, so to speak. Not that I don't love the song. Obviously, I wouldn't have put it on there because, and it's sandwiched in between that Allison by the Pixies. You're just like, oh yeah, okay.
And I will defend Allison.
Oh,
I will
for
defend
sure.
Allison.
Yeah.
First off, it was a short song, and I had to find a short song. But I like the Pixies. They're not for everybody. Their lyrics are usually cryptic, and they're often discordant. That's one reason I picked this song, is actually because there's some places in there where it's, I thought it maybe in that way followed Zappa all right. Plus, I was thinking, um, two or three songs well, 3 songs in a row involving a girl in one way or another. Although I was wrong, I looked this up later, and Allison was originally about a girl, and they got Frank Black, the singer, and I guess he writes most of the songs. I don't know. He got concerned that there might be some legal issue or whatever with Elvis Costello's Allison. I don't know if it was around the same time. I think it was later. But anyway, so he changed it to be about Mose Allison. At least that's what he says. And I think that's why the name is spelled a little bit different, Allison. Mose Allison, if you haven't checked him out, is well, he's also passed, but he was a great jazzy blues guy. And then actually Elvis Costello covered a Mose Allison song once, which is a really good song, which we'll make it on one of these playlists one of these days.
So I thought it flowed real well after the Zappa too. I thought it was pretty cool, and I kind of like the fact that we had long and short songs on there too, because I knew that if we were all just playing 8, 9, 10-minute songs, whatever, and then we had that opportunity to throw those 1 and 2 minute long ones in there. So I thought that was really good, that it kind of just it broke it up a little bit after 2 long songs in a row. Going back though to one of the things earlier, we talked about it because the second song was White Car, and it was a short song that you put on, Jose. To me, one thing that did is it took all of our yes away from us, because I had a couple of songs Mike was talking about, other people were thinking, we have, Yes is famous for a lot of their longer songs, and then you throw on White Car, which I think might be the shortest Yes song that's there. Why'd you pick that song? What drove you to?
I knew that I kind of knew that throw a wrench in y'all. I admit that I knew that was kind of something that there's all those long Yes songs, but we've all heard all the long Yes songs. I'm not that I don't love all long Yes songs, but we've heard them. So I thought, I'm going to throw a wrench in, coupled with the fact that it's, as like Mike says, it's a short song. Not many short songs on there that you can find that are a minute. You find them here and there. And I've always loved that song. Dave, you've introduced that album to me. I have always loved that album. I have the deluxe edition of that album. I play that album all the time. It is my favorite Yes album.
Some people would say, diehard Yes aficionados would say that's the first time that it really wasn't Yes, because it didn't have John Anderson. But I think that's the farthest. Even though John Anderson says, hey, he's part of Yes, they moved on without him. And in 1980, when they put this album out, who did they put on? It was like Trevor Horn and the guy from the Buggles,
Jeff Downs,
Jeff Downs.
Yeah, right. Oh no, that, like I said, and it still goes on today. Every time you see that on there, I'm part of one of their Facebook page, and there's you throw that album up there, and there's the immediate debate on this isn't Yes, this is Yes. I'm a firm believer that I don't care if it's yes or not. It's one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. I love
Mike,
every song on that
Mike,
album.
were you exposed to Drama, or did you know that album?
Well, I feel like I keep arguing with Jose's points here. I've never really been familiar with it. I've heard, I think maybe one or both you guys have played songs off of it. I was really, I was into the John Anderson stuff, and so I don't think I ever really gave it a chance. So I should probably do that. I don't think I never owned the I don't think I own the record. If I did, I didn't really play it. That doesn't mean it's not a great record. It's just whatever, my own bias. One thing about this song, as I was listening to it, I had to count the syllables because it ended up being 4 lines, the song. And I was thinking, is this a haiku? Because it was like one line with 7, one line with whatever, but it doesn't, it's 4 lines, the syllables don't work out, but it was almost a haiku. But I'm still I don't know. It's so short. It's hard to really say what I think about it. I'm still kind of listening to it. It's like some of these others, like another one I played. It's there and then it's gone before you really get much into it. So yeah.
Well,
Okay.
was to say one of the parts of the playlist that I really liked was, and we already talked about Sugar Baby, but when we put those 3 songs, Sugar Baby by Dylan, and then Cheyenne Anthem was my choice with Kansas, and then Jose followed that up with
The
Lamia? Is that the
Lamia.
Lamia by Genesis? There were 7 6 7 minute long songs right there in a row, and I thought all 3 of them kind of went real well. Talking about my selection by Cheyenne Anthem by Kansas. I've talked about this before. It's off the album Left Overture. I think it's one of the most brilliant prog rock albums of the '70s at that time. And this song is just one that I've always liked. It just builds. With long songs for me, the cool thing is either it's a long narrative like a Bob Dylan thing or a Grateful Dead thing or something where they're telling a story, or it breaks it up into parts. And even though it's not this part, this part, this part, the song does different things and changes. Like Rush does a lot, or Genesis, or Yes, or these other ones. And with this one, with Kansas, it was like that. It starts out with acoustical guitar, and then and then they come in with a little piano, and then they start doing and then the drums and bass comes in, and then more piano, and then children singing in the background, and then the violins come in, and then they build on it, and then they get to this point where it's like almost like a race, dun, 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 and it's just building, the tempo is building, and to me that's the brilliance of Kansas, and why I like them so much. But and this one again had the aspect of the Native Americans and just the whole Cheyenne Anthem thing. But I thought all 3 of those songs just flowed real well together. We'll talk about the other ones in a minute. But what do you all think of Cheyenne Anthem?
I enjoyed it a lot, and if there's any real debate that Kansas isn't prog rock, and all I kept thinking about this is if Genesis had done this song, if Pink Floyd had done, everyone would be like, this is one of the best prog rock songs. But Kansas did it. It kind of gets lost because they're not known for that. But that song is really a fantastic song, and it has all the elements that you want in a prog rock song, and it kind of blew me away. And that was one of the reasons that I followed up with the Lamia. Now, that probably wasn't the best Genesis choice after I went back. There's songs that kind of fit more with it, like 11th Earl or One for the Vine, if you ever heard those. They're more that kind of dun 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 dun, and songs about battles and stuff like that. But the Lamia, because it is my favorite album, it has that same feel. In the last minute of Cheyenne, there's a certain chord progression there that you can almost hear the same in Lamia in a certain part. And that's one of the reasons I picked it. Plus, the Lamia always seems out of place when you play it off the Lamplight, because no one knows what that means, what the song's about, because they don't know. You don't listen to the whole album because it's a concept album. but it's a fantastic song, and it has such great lyrics. My chocolate fingers. He has a lot of the great Genesis lyrics that people know. So that's one of the reasons I picked it. It is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, my introduction to Genesis was Phil Collins, and then I worked backwards, and then I got to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and I was just like blown away by it. But it was so weird. Parts of it I was just like, I don't get this. But they all grew on me, And this is one of the last songs that I was like, what is this song? But yeah, it's a cool song. It's about what do you call it? Sirens, but like the reverse happens. He ends up destroying the sirens, instead of them destroying him. Which is I guess we could spend some time talking about why that is and how that fits into the whole
You
concept
don't
of
want
the
to get
record.
into that.
I'll just
Okay,
say, I think,
I gotta say it. I love the song because of the piano and how it went with the Kansas song, and I love piano. I love how that what weaves in, and so it was a great song. And I went to the lyrics, man, and I tried to understand the
You did.
lyrics. I tried.
The water
Okay,
turns ice.
he slips into the nectar, leaving his shredded clothes behind. And then later, with their tongues, they test and taste and judge all that is mine. And then, O Lamia, your flesh that remains, I will take as my food. It is the scent of garlic that lingers on my chocolate fingers.
That's a
Okay,
classic
so
Genesis line.
is this a cannibalism thing here going on?
Yeah,
or what?
not at all. It's just I'm sure a metaphor for something.
again, I think it's like, the sirens, they were, I guess, I don't know if they were like vampires or whatever. They would lead with their songs, lead the sailors to their deaths on the rock and devour them or whatever. And this is kind of like the opposite. They're leading him there, but then his blood is poison to them, and they die, and he eats them up for whatever reason. And if we go back to the point you made about the Kansas song, Jose, listening, that song. First off, I like the song a lot, and I'll get back to that in a second. But it seems so familiar, and I know I've never heard it. But then I started realizing there were parts that kind of reminded me of some Genesis kind of progressions, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer in some places.
Yeah.
And there were a couple other, even Jethro Tull a little bit in there. And I was like, this is so cool. I don't know if this is them paying homage to these people that, had been a little bit earlier than them in some cases, or if that's just their influences, or that's just where it came from. But yeah, it's a good song. I really appreciate that topic too, because Native Americans, we had such a bad history, taking their land away from them.
We've talked about Killers of the what's in it? The Scorsese movie, the Scorsese movie.
Yeah, it's a great
Killers of the
Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon, right? Same, yeah. So we've talked about that in the past as well, and yeah, just a hard subject, and yeah, I think that's the brilliance of what Kansas does, though, too, is just the layering of musicians. It's a band with musicians. It's not just, hey, we're playing a couple things. It's that whole thing that builds them out. I was looking at the list. Were you going to say something else about the Lamia, Mike? Or
no, that pretty much covers it. I like the whole album. That one was kind of one of the later ones for me to get my head around.
I see you got your shirt on there.
Yeah, I like the whole album. That is my favorite album of all time.
There's stand up so people can see it. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Do you want to see my framed version next to me over here? I have a framed version.
Did they do that live quite a bit too, or is there?
They did. Well, they went out on tour. They put it out before they put out the album. They started touring it in London, and then came to the U.S. and toured it. But by the time they hit the U.S., it started coming out. But they were doing that whole album and had not put it out yet. They just go on stage and people be like, "What's going on here? Where's I know what I like. Where's supper's ready?" No, they just went through their whole the whole album, and so rather interesting that people are just like, oh my god, I would have killed. There's no videotape of it or anywhere. I have at least, and I don't know why because it's the same songs, 10 different versions of it, bootleg versions of that stupid thing. I have, you get a little obsessed. There's different encores, but I have some from Germany and Wembley, and oh, it's out
And
there.
the later Genesis with Phil Collins at the lead, he would try to pick up. They would try to pick up some of the songs, and he would like the Cage, in the Cage. That one they would play. I saw Genesis once, and with Phil Collins, and they played that song, but they then ended it, kind of segued into a newer Genesis song. So they were still kind of, you know,
Well,
nodding their heads to it, even though I don't know if there's bad blood between them and Peter Gabriel at that point. But
they never really have, and they've always played. They've always in this. Well, I'm not going to get too deep in the woods. '76, they played it all the way through. Even their later, they'd play at least "The Lamb Lies," one song from it. They would play, and they'd always play old Genesis songs. But yeah, there was never. Hell, Peter Gabriel's at their last show. He was there. People were hoping, why don't you just step on stage and give us a tune? But they never had, and they always played their songs. And like you said, the songs would change according. Yeah, I'm getting too deep into the woods, so I'll just stop. But like in the Cage would change from more keyboard oriented to guitar oriented because you didn't have Steve Hackett anymore. You had Tony Banks running the show, so of course some of those songs would get, or they'd be part of a medley or something like that. So, but they've always paid tribute. It's just great music. That, like I said, Dave would never can't understand that song because he doesn't know that album. You know,
Was
every time
Watcher
I
of the
know I hear
Sky,
that
was that
song,
on that?
I know what's going on. So, and not
I
that you
probably
can
need to
understand
listen
that
to it from start to finish. I probably need to go back and listen to that. I knew some of the tracks on it. Was Watcher of the Skies, was that on that one, or was that on just,
no,
that was something else?
yeah.
I remember I'd say most of the early Genesis stuff was because you exposed me to some of that, and
Yeah, and it was Mike who exposed me to Lamb, so you know, which of course was, you know, but yeah,
I think I had a couple albums. I think I did have Foxtrot and
you did, and you had Selling England, I think, and I think you even had the live album. Either you did or I did because I know we played it once or twice.
those three studio albums are, oh, sorry. Those three studio albums are, I think, kind of their peak to me. I like some of the earlier stuff. I can kind of get into the later stuff with Phil Collins only, but those are my three favorites that you mentioned there.
Those are three of the most favorites of people. You know, you could make a case for Wind and Withering. You can make a case for Trick of the Tail, which is just a fantastic album. And that was the other thing in trying to pick a song for after, you know, the Cheyenne Anthem. There's so many good songs on Trick of the Tail. You know,
You mentioned Selling England by the Pound. What was the album where they, what was it called? Yeah, Selling Out for Commercial Success. What was the name of that first Genesis album where they stopped doing this stuff and started charting and pop songs and hit songs and Abacab and that, right?
Getting deep into the woods. You could say after Steve Hackett left, right? You could say, and then there were three. They started, but there was still prog songs there, and even Duke has long prog songs, right? I mean, there are songs on there, but there's also schmaltz on there. I mean, there's Phil Collins. I call it schmaltz. They're Phil Collins songs. Let's just put it that way. And then by after that, that was kind of, I say up until 1980. That's my own opinion on when they went from full on.
My gateway album was Abacab, and but also that before that they had that song "Turn It On Again," and both of those songs at the time. Well, I'm going to stand by it. I still like that record. Yeah, I don't put it in the same category.
In the air tonight. Yeah.
That's not even a Genesis song.
That's solo Phil Collins. That's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole
bless his heart.
By the way, how's Phil doing? Last time I saw him, he was
horrible,
limping out on stage and sitting in a chair. And
that was one of the reasons I didn't see him.
And I don't mean this to bring up a morbid thought, but is he going to be, 2024, 2020? I mean, we're going to hear, oh my gosh, Phil Collins died,
I think it's more physical than mental, right? I mean, it's just his back. He can't play. And I don't think he's actually as like cancer or anything of more, something that, but it's more his back is all messed up and yeah, maybe.
I think his hands too, his arms
Right,
couldn't really,
right.
like carpal tunnel or whatever the nuclear version of that, because just all the and he played, that sound, that like boom boom, the loud kind of thing he did. I mean, that's gotta just take such a toll on your hands and arms and back and everything else.
Oh man, but so that brings us back to the playlist, and then the Lamia was followed up with I think another kind of mixtape showstopper, Through the Buzz, which I've
I was
never
going to
heard.
talk about that one next. Yeah, that was good that you came in with that, because we had played a few three long songs in a row. So and Steely Dan, I hadn't heard I remember the song, but very vaguely. Tell us about your thoughts on Through with Buzz.
Through with Buzz. It was short. It was short. That's it. No, I always thought it was kind of as a funny song. I mean, it's just kind of one of these odd songs that they threw out there, and they put it on Royal Scam. No, it's not. It's on
Pretzel Logic.
Pretzel Logic. Excuse me, Pretzel Logic, and which is a great album. Has a bunch of stuff, and I guess they had a little bit of time. They threw that one in there. It just cracks me up. It's also, I think, one of only 2 songs where they had strings, any kind of orchestration with strings on there. But I used to think it was a song about somebody dealing with drug addiction, which Lord knows plenty of their songs are. But Donald Fagen, singer, keyboardist, and songwriter, he said it was, if I got to have this correctly, it was basically an old roommate, college roommate or whatever. That was kind of referencing that. But they all Becker and Fagen both said they hated that song. So it's just me. I like it. It just cracks me up, and it just seemed like a non sequitur and broke up the heavy stuff that had been before it, and right after it too. So yeah, the long songs. There you go. Consider it a what do you call it? A palate cleanser.
Well, it's kind of like following up Allison with "End of the World" by Bob Geldof. Dave,
Right?
I enjoyed that song a lot, and it's kind of interesting. And is it more environmental thing? Is it more how do you interpret that song?
I, I don't know. It's just it was a short song. I went through, and I've been wanting to put on something by Geldof, and I needed to put it on with drawing blanks here for a minute. So I needed to probably put it on after one of Mike's Pogues songs, right? Because he got that whole Irish, Scottish, brogue kind of things that I've been like, oh, I know there's going to be a song that I could put on after Mike puts a Pogue song on or something, but so I don't know. I knew it was a short song. I wanted to put on. There's a couple other Geldof songs I think are going to make it on a playlist here coming up, because I just kind of like him. I liked his vibe and everything when he was with the Boomtown Rats, and then he went solo and put out a few albums in the through the '80s, and even has some live stuff that might make it on our live playlist when we go to do that one. So other than that, I don't have much of an interpretation of it, other than he says it's going to happen. It's going to happen in a blink of an eye. And what does he say about Nostradamus and Jesus and Buddha and me? We're all predicted it. It was all going to happen eventually, right?
Yeah, I like the black humor to it. If you can make a song about the apocalypse humorous, that's pretty close to it. I also thought it was good. Songs about destruction and chaos. Then the one after that, the White Riot by the Clash. I thought those two really went well together. But I was not as familiar with solo Bob Geldof. I knew the Boomtown Rats. The one thing that struck me is, for some reason, if you've heard some acoustic music by the Kinks, it had a little bit of sound to it. His voice, and then whoever the background singer kind of reminded me of Dave Davies. I'm sure it wasn't. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but yeah, I had another one. I can't remember now, but I had a short song that would have gone great with this whole chaos and whatever. I can't remember what it was now, but of course I only had one long song left, and so that had to come next.
Well, before you get to that, so my other choice I was going to put it towards the end, but then I realized I'm not the end. I'm like 3 from the end of the playlist, so it kind of didn't fit as well. But the other short song I had in my mind was Pink Floyd's "Goodbye Cruel World." So it was one of those two, both very dark, very, whatever. But I was going to try to end on it, but then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not the last song. I'm the third to the last song. So threw it on there anyway. And then, yeah, I thought the Clash song that Jose put on after that was really cool. Went well with it.
Yeah, well, the Clash is always. It's not one of actually. It's not one of my favorites. I do like White Right, and it's controversial because if you listen to the lyrics, it's they kind of insinuate that, kind of throws out there that black people understand about rioting, so well white people just don't get rioting, and so that's why they riot, because something's taken away from them, and then but black people just go with the flow, and people are like, hey, whoa, let's not talk for it anyway. But it's a great song, and it really is, and it in some ways speaks the truth. So but I thought it went well with Dave's song. It's a short song, obviously it's right behind it, but I really like Dave's song, End of the World. And I interpret it more like he's saying that we're destroying ourselves, and that's why we're going to be the end of the world. But maybe I'll take another listen to the lyrics. But it sounded like it was more of a like, we're destroying this world, so it's going to be the end of the world. We've passed the tipping point, so to speak. So it's us that's destroying.
Mike, we're lucky that Jose put White Riot by the Clash and not Quiet Riot, because he could have gone there, and
I would have had nothing to say about that. I would have just kept my mouth closed.
You've seen Quiet Riot, Dave, because you sat right next to me. So okay. So don't be judging on who's seen Quiet Riot, who's listened to Quiet Riot. Okay.
I purged them from my playlist. I don't think I've heard them since 1983.
Hey, can I cut in here real quick? I just remember what the song was I was going to put on. The other short End of the World kind of thing. It's by the band World Party. It's not really a proper song. It's like this. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe I'll put it on one sometime. I think it's called "And God Said," and it's like this kind of operatic voice going, "And God said, look after the planet," and it repeats that a few times, and then the last line is, "And man said, F you." And so they obviously were big on environmental stuff. And I thought that fit well past this, but I only had a long song, and honestly, I'm not sure I would have been comfortable putting that song on.
Let's talk about that long song on the end there. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest fan of ELO. I don't own ELO. I think I own one ELO album, and that might have been given to me, but discuss your song. Like, not that I didn't actually, I enjoyed it a lot. So, and it's kind of a good way to leave that kind of angst and chaos, and then flow into ELO and kind of, okay, let's bring it back.
Well, it's not a positive song. It's also chaos. It's about war. Over 10 plus minutes, maybe 11 minutes, something. I looked this up later. I didn't realize it. It was the longest ELO song on this record that it came off of, which was their second record, and it's their longest song they ever did. So, and it was all, I had to do a long song, and I like the song. I have for years. And all the Genesis and I didn't have any Kansas on my list, but Genesis and Yes were prominent on my long songs. So I had this one on there, and it's basically about a soldier who's with this orphaned girl, basically, and he's describing how it gets to this point. In the very last verse, he confesses to her I killed your parents. I'm the one that killed them. And then it's over. And so I was thinking it really fit in with the death and destruction. It's not a great way to end a record.
thought it
Maybe
was.
End of the World might have been. But I like it. That was back when ELO gets a bad rap, and rightly so. They did their disco record called Discovery, but some people separate that into two words, Disco Very. And then they gave up on the strings mostly, and it was all synthesizers, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but they just kind of became their earlier years. I thought they had some more integrity, and I liked the music more. Whether you're into them or not, that's fine. I saw them live, and it was a great show. Took my son to it. So, but
I
yeah,
think the same thing happened to them that, like I said, with just like Genesis or whatever, the earlier stuff was more progressive and that kind of thing. And then they got more commercial, and they realized, and a lot of bands do this. They realize that, wow, if we want to make money, we need to put out some hits. And that's what the record label wants us to do, right? They don't want an 11-minute long song. It doesn't sell, that kind of thing. They want the 3.5-minute version, 4-minute version of a song that's going to be catchy and whatnot. But I liked it. I'd never heard the song, and there's some of that early ELO that I haven't heard either. This song would have gone good in a couple of places on the playlist. You mentioned at the end, but man, Cheyenne Anthem, the Genesis song, and then this one would have been 3 right in a row. The same kind of genre and style. So it would have fit there. It fit well at the end. And to me, when I listened to it a couple of times, and it doesn't feel that long. It doesn't, because I appreciated the music, the lyrics, the song, all of it. And so it didn't feel like an 11-minute long song to me. I thought it was a good way to end.
Right. Well, if you would have flipped that song and Through with Buzz. Through with Buzz. I think that might have. But
yeah, but
let's do it. Let's just change it.
Wait a minute. So you would have Sugar Baby, which was about 7 minutes, Cheyenne Anthem, which was about 7 minutes, the Lamia 7 minutes, Better Place to Be 10 minutes, and Kiyama or whatever, Kiyama, which is the ELO song, 11 minutes. That's a lot of long stuff.
It's like going to dinner, right? 4-course meal. You got your shorts, you got your salad, then all of a sudden you got your courses, your lobster, your steak, and then you end with your, of course, chaotic dessert. That doesn't make any sense, but still.
Well, I still stand in that analogy. I think it was good to have a little short palate cleanser in the middle between the courses. Through with Buzz.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm not going to
Clear your
apologize.
palate,
I have
Clear
another.
your palate. Get ready for the next song. That's right.
Before we're done, can I go back? We talked about Old Friends at the very beginning, and I didn't really ever say anything. And I like that song a lot. It's not long. It's funny. The album's called Bookends, and it bookends the album literally, I think. It's the conclusion. There's a little instrumental after it. I was just listening to this. The two, Simon and Garfunkel, singing kind of to each other. Imagine us on a park bench, and I don't think they ever got to do that. 70. I don't think they ever got to do that. I don't think they talked to each other at all. It's kind of sad that that's the case. But
I think they got reconciled.
Maybe us old friends, we'll get together and sit on a park bench and play our playlist at 70.
Well, it is
right.
funny when you play the song when we were 19, 20, 21, and it has a whole different meaning now that you're 30 years down the road. This song to us is like, oh, old friends, old men sitting on the bench. Hey, wait, that's us now.
Yeah, listening to it at 58, I was totally thinking of that. We've said that about a number of songs. It's like,
right,
you're completely looking at it from a different direction. And it's like, oh, geez.
Right.
58, how many years?
Like 70? Right. Not that many. And I do like the way the orchestration builds on that song too. But overall, I think we all did a real good job on this playlist. 12 songs, 4 apiece. we went like an hour and 1 minute. So like, even though we changed from our normal format of 5 songs and 15 songs, 5 each, it still fit, still worked. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a great playlist, and it's the long and short of it that I think makes it so great. So I I enjoyed making it, enjoyed listening. It's going to be one I'll go back to lots as well. And again, thanks to both of you for being my old friends.
Same here. Same here. Can I add? I think this playlist, I mean, this format might be a little more interesting to folks and might work a little better than what we've been doing. So I appreciate you suggesting it, Dave. And
We'll
thank you
see
guys.
how it plays out. And like I said, I look forward to the music, but also just to getting together and talking with you all, you know, and whether we're recording it or whether we're not, and whether we're talking about the playlist or we're talking about our families or we're talking about other stuff. Um, that's the most important thing. So maybe if somebody else enjoys it, great. But if not, we're getting great. Um, what's the word? I just
Satisfaction might be.
it's help satisfaction. It's helping me in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, always a fun time. Always a great time. And who doesn't love talking about music? Like you said, the icing on the cake is talking about the music. Getting the music is just, you know, and then getting to talk about it. You know, you don't, let's face it, throughout your daily life, you don't have that opportunity all that often to talk about music with someone in depth. You know, you have your occasional here, but most of the time, you know, and it's all, and I know we've all been through this. You're in a car, you hear a song, and you want to talk to the next person about, like, hey, did you know so and so? And they're just like, I'm not going to do that. But we do that. So it's kind of our release. And that, I think that, you know, it's always fun that we get to do that, you know.
do you all ever do that? Like, and I don't know if it's just me, but I'm at work or something, and something comes up, and I'll throw a lyric to a song to them, and they look at me like, "What? What's that?" And I have to try to explain it to them for a second. There's one guy in my office that listens to some music, and so he'll come to my desk sometimes and spout a lyric or say something, and I'm like, oh, and I usually know right away what that song is or whatever. But does that ever happen to you all, where you're in your daily life and a lyric or a song pops in your head and you mention it or say something and then people look at you strange?
Well, around the house, around the family, it's one of the along with dad jokes, one of the sources of eye rolling, I think. I just I just mansplain songs to death sometimes. But and I throw in lyrics and stuff. Yeah, it's I can't help it. I can't help it.
Right. Well, it's part of our thing, and then we just love talking about it. And believe me, I'm guilty as anybody. Of you're around somebody, or a song comes on, and all of a sudden you're like, "Did you know?" or, "Oh my God, have you heard this?" Or back in '70, you know, back in '87 when I saw that, you know, we all talk about it and want them to respond to it. And they're just looking at you like, oh no, I are you crazy? But some are interested, and then when they're interested, you're happy about it because sometimes people do listen. Listen, face it. For one thing, they know that you like your music. You know, people knew that I always liked my music. I was fortunate that I always got to play music at work when I worked. So for the most part, so it was always nice that music. And like I said, when the newsroom cleared out at after 5 o'clock, I was allowed to play my music as loud as I could. And if you're a reporter on the other side of the thing, you know, you got to have to listen to my music because it's how I work. But yeah, you know, and of course, and you like the people who will talk to you about it. And, you know, it's fun. You find that's a rarity, but there are people out there that will talk to you. But that's what you miss the most is just talking about it.
If I could just borrow one thing from you. Oh, were you gonna say something else, Dave?
Oh, no, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was gonna kind of just add something. You put a nice bow on it earlier, talking about old friends, kind of wrapping this up, and then I kind of went into some other things, but I just wanted to go back to that because you know, I second that. Here's the old friends. You guys are. It's great having this opportunity and doing this.